Hello and welcome. For this today's wonderful session. It's great to have all of you with us today, and very good afternoon. Let me quickly introduce myself. I am Mayur Vasani, and I am the moderator for today's session. I work for CrashPlan, and I'm heading the South region. So I'm an enterprise manager. So post this call, there'll be a lot more interaction between both of us. And let me quickly introduce today's speakers, Mr. Subhash Baliga. He is our RVP Sales India and for IMEA region, and he is going to share his experience in and around data resilience, space, and recovery strategies. Subhash brings 2 decades plus of experience. I am sure that it will be a wonderful, insightful session delivered by Subhash. Then I have got Shashank Parker, who is our senior solution engineer at CrashPlan. So Shashank closely works with IT teams to design and implement Microsoft 365 data protection solutions. Yes, I'll now hand it over to Mr. Subhash Baliga to begin the main discussion. Welcome, Subhash.
Thanks, Mayur. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining. And good afternoon. Let me quickly introduce myself. Subhash Baliga this side. I've been part of the earlier organizations, which most of you people must be aware, which was called Parablue. Parablue was acquired by CrashPlan, and today we are a part of the CrashPlan entity. And we still continue talking the same language, talking to the same set of people. And we continue having the same set of customers and also the growing customers here. So thank you for joining today. And I think it's a pretty interesting topic that we are discussing about Microsoft 365. And we know that, Microsoft 365 is almost like a default that we go and talk to in the industry. And I'm sure 80-90% of the people who are joined today, most of them use Microsoft 365. It's almost like it's part of the critical environment of the organization today, because communication works on that, sharing, collaboration, everything is working on this particular platform, and more what do you call it as involvement of an organization goes into a specific application like this. You probably will be depending on the service provider to do most of the things. So today, if we are talking about Microsoft 365, we have customers using Exchange, we have people using the SharePoint, and today also OneDrive is almost becoming a default share drive for most of the organization utilizing it. So things have changed drastically. So today, every business of an organization is actually sitting on the O365 environments, apart from the production. And this expectation would be is that if there is something that goes wrong, they would be expecting the Microsoft entity to actually take care of this particular platform. The good part is that Microsoft has done a great job. If you look at the Azure data centers across the globe, the kind of availability, criticality, all those things that they confirm on, especially on the infrastructure level, they're extremely reliable, extremely high available, and that is something what comes default when you're going and align with Microsoft. But what actually happens is the fact that most of the organizations believe that they are also protected from a data loss point of view, which is something what we will be discussing in detail today. And this topic becomes very important because there is a certain belief system that is there in the market, where most of the 50% of the organizations that I have been speaking to, most of the people believe that whatever is provided as an infrastructure, as a cloud availability, is something what is default or backup for them. So this is something what needs to be discussed today, and that is something what we will be highlighting. Specifically on the fact that the risk is with the customer, because at any given point of time, most of the customers who have faced data loss, Microsoft does not commit this particular part, and that is something what the customer needs to take care of. So clearly what we have seen is many organizations using 365, Office M365 as a productivity tool, would be relying on a third-party entity, and that's exactly what is required from an education point of view today, and also talk about very specifics when we go further on. So some of the risk that we're talking today is not something that we are talking about something very unique which happens once in a decade. No, we're talking about risks which are associated with M365 on a regular basis. Wherever, and I have been talking to most of the customers in the market, customers who are in different verticals, and organizations which are just 500 user organizations, and also organizations which are 50,000 user base. Almost every single element of risk is almost the same here, because most of the organizations have faced what you're seeing on the screen. It's as simple as an error created, or an incident of data loss is just because of one small human error. Now, this human error can be something which is known to the person, so it probably would be addressed at any given point of time. But if it is non-known and it goes on untraced, you would probably see a small ticket getting raised. Post that, you will only find the impact of this particular thing, probably after a couple of months, where your recoverability also with Microsoft becomes extremely unreliable. So this is something what we have seen on a consistent basis. It's not about your entire data loss happening across the organization. It is about happening at a micro level, at a very important folder levels, at a very important project levels, where collaborations are happening, multiple projects, people are involved, multiple man hours are going on, and this is when the actual impact happens. So this is something what is very important to understand, that at this given point of time, Microsoft is not something that will come to your help. So very clearly, a much highlighted thing that we would like the audience to be well aware of. So second thing is about the ransomware. The reason why we are very particularly highlighting a ransomware event is not just that ransomware is hot and happening here, but the fact is that today ransomware as a service has grown to an extent that anybody and everybody can actually create a compromised payload, and move it to an audience which are wider and larger in nature. And for anybody today, Microsoft M365 would be one of the largest segment that they would try to impact. So today what we have seen is we have seen ransomware payloads which are designed to only go and impact M365 environments. So this is something what we have seen predominantly for customers who are an M365 customer. And that is something what becomes a little bit of a red flag for anybody, because when you have targeted ransomware attacks happening, you could probably be just weeks away or months away from this kind of a compromise. And at that given point of time, you probably may not be able to run to Microsoft to get a recovery functionality, because again, it is all related to data. And I will be talking about why this particular thing is so very well defined, that only the customers need to take care of this element and not anybody else. So the important other elements that we also talk about is the intentional deletions. Now, disgruntled employees have always been a big concern for organizations. And when I say disgruntled employees, I'm talking about employees who actually want to create harm for the organization. And when they know that there is data which is outside the preview of the organization, but that data is very important for the organization, you would probably have this risk at the hands of the disgruntled employee. And we have seen many of the instances where I have been talking to customers in the realty segments, in the manufacturing segments, where they are into design, they are into large projects. We have seen organizations where a group of people have actually masterminded themselves to delete specific folders over a period of time. And by the time the organization was well aware of it, you would probably see at least 20-30% of the actual live project data missing from the data from the backend. So this is the possible scenarios that we're talking about, and we as an organization, anybody for that organization needs to be well aware of this particular thing, that this could impact them any given point of time. And most importantly, I think data is sitting everywhere, usage is happening everywhere. So you basically don't have control from a user point of view also, because employees are based across the organization. They're using an application which is hosted environments, and probably the complexities also increases, and governance also comes into mind, because when you are having users sitting across the globe, That's when the complexity and the governance becomes a little bit of a challenge. You need to know where your data is sitting, how it is sitting, how it's been protected. That's exactly the reason why we are seeing this risk. Let's move forward. So this slide is pretty interesting. I will run through it pretty faster. It's a very clear, defined slide which Microsoft will ask most of the people to sign, and it's part of their agreements. The Microsoft infrastructure is something what they take responsibility on, and what responsibility comes to the service provider. I mean, to the customer is very clearly on their data protection part, which is fundamentally what their data is all about: recoverability, protection, and ensuring that the compliance and all those kind of things are there, which are related to data, is something what the customer needs to take care of. And what the Microsoft takes care is basically the infrastructure availability, ensuring that the uptime is taken care, security parameters are taken care, data center operations are extremely high available, and all of this is something what comes from the Microsoft as a default commitment. So clearly, if somebody is there in the belief system that Microsoft is going to come and help them during this particular scenarios, definitely it is not. And at an organization level where there are thousands of users, operating on a daily basis with emails, with SharePoint, with OneDrive data, it's probably a nightmare for somebody to even believe that recoverability functions can be managed during a crisis. And that's the reason why we say a shared responsibility is something the organization needs to be well aware of. And this will put the clarity that the data part needs to be taken care of from a customer's point of view and not from Microsoft's side of view. So what does Microsoft does not protect you against? It's pretty clear that Microsoft will not come and give you any kind of assist when it comes from accidental deletion from users. It could be intentional, it could be unintentional, it could be just an error. But if the error goes unnoticed and it goes for days and months together, and there is a specific requirement for that particular data to come back, it's practically impossible for a manual process to intervene, and having a restore activity done from any kind of a environment where you are keeping it for a long-term hold and legal holds, or even for that matter, anything that the commitment is there as the data is being kept for a longer period of time. None of this will be useful when there is an accidental deletion and there is an intentional deletion which is going unnoticed. Uh, when there is a corruption of data, again, Microsoft will not come in. They would have expected you to actually ensure that you have protection for these kind of things. And that's when they will come back and say that, you have the infrastructure available, you have the application running. If there is a corruption happening there, you probably would have to take care of it yourself. So this is something what we always go and tell the customer. Encryption once happens, you can be rest assured that your OneDrive is one of the fastest and the easiest way for ransomware encryption to move from one single place to another. And if there is a collaboration happening on your OneDrive, God forbid, you probably have the entire organization being affected. And that scenario will be exactly the scenario where you will probably not be able to go back to Microsoft. And insider deletions, which is very intentional. Obviously, it is done very silently without anybody knowing about it. And probably the organization would have left the user to go out. And probably this will be something which is project related, which will come on after 7 months, 9 months, later. And at that given point of time, you probably will not have Microsoft coming for your aid, because they would probably have a 30-day window for ensuring that the data can be restored back to them. So this is something what everybody needs to be well aware of, and it is something what we need to sensitize the management at any given point of time, because whatever that we just spoke today on this particular slide is something what is going to impact the management as well. So when we say real world data loss, we spoke about accidental deletion, and this exactly happens after weeks later, which means to say that we have had customers who had accidental deletion of specific project data, and probably after 8 to 9 months later, they were well aware of this particular thing only when there was an audit and a legal demand for this particular data. Unfortunately, most of this particular information was not available. And if they were expecting the Microsoft community to come and help them, they wouldn't have done that because they would have not got this help at all. So that is something what we always talk about. Ransomware encrypting on a sync data. So very clearly, once the sync happens in a ransomware environment, and most of the organization today uses OneDrive, you could probably see a data loss getting transferred from one OneDrive to another because collaboration happens, sharing of files happen internally, and this is something what becomes a reality at any given point of time on a data loss scenarios. Account deletion, data gone. We have seen that 30 days is the time period. Employees provide their, resignations. They have an intent to delete data. They will delete data over a period of 30 days, not the entire data, but partial data. Very important specific files, specific folders. At that given point of time, after 30 days of exit, you probably will be knowing about this after 6 months of time that this particular employee had deleted data, but you probably wouldn't have any kind of a recovery functionality. Neither would you have any kind of scenarios to understand that this was actually intentionally done during this particular period of time. So this is something what we assessed. This is something what we have seen in customers, whether it's small or large. We have seen this evidently being there. And audit requirements come in any given point of time. So we have seen auditors coming and asking specific files, specific user files, specific folder files, project files. And this normally comes in after a year or so. So you basically are in the impression that everything is available. And if something goes wrong, you can recover. But believe me, when the audit happens, the timelines that are given to any organizations are mind blowing with respect to the kind of expectation that they come with. So at any given point of time, if you want to do a granular file level restore of a particular user during a particular time period, no amount of actual commitments from Microsoft on long-term retentions and all of those things will ever come to your help as such. So these are the main things. We have seen most of the people when we go and talk, customers do mention that they have a retention policies, recycle bins. None of this will come to any aid. The reason why we mention this is very clear. All of these are time bound. So recycle bins are time bound. Retention policies are designed for compliance related need. It is not designed for recovery. So if anybody believes that the retention is something that they're going to help them during a recoverable scenarios, it is practically an impossible feat for somebody to do it. One more important thing is the version history. Retention does not help you to create versions. It is the same set of files. But what is required during a specific event or a recurring event is the fact that you need to have multiple versions that you couldn't go back to. And that becomes very important during a recovery function. And that is something what the native tools will fall short very badly on. And no matter amount of expectation that you build for this particular thing, you would only have very limited scope for a version specific restore activity. And everything is manual. We have seen organizations struggling to do any kind of a recover function from the set tools which are native in nature. And believe me, native is something like, you're driving at a speed of 30 kilometers per hour and expecting you to reach a 5,000 kilometer destination. So it's practically impossible for you to do that. And we don't recommend anybody to even believe that this is a possibility. And one very important aspect that I would like to emphasize is the fact that retention. So whenever we go and talk to customers, they mention that they have a default retention period, and this is on their entire M365 tenant. So I would like to highlight this is please understand that retention is not an independent copy, or it's not a parallel tenant. It is a same tenant. It's the same data what we are talking about, syncing up to the same data. So if there is any problem or there is a challenge, it is replicating to the same set of data. So recovery becomes extremely impossible. And believe me, at any given point of time, retention cannot be something that any organization can believe to be a answer for a recovery function. So very clearly, what we talk about when we talk about what is required and what is coming as part of the retention is two different things, because retention can never alternate a backup, because backup is an independent copy. It is not dependent on the base copy at any given point of time. It is automated and it is continuous. When I say continuous, it is persistent in nature. So even if there is a stopping, it will still continue. It's very granular in nature, because when we say granular, we talk about specific time period, user groups, specific folders, specific files. And the most important thing, it also helps with the long-term retention. That means to say it gives you control because it's a longer period of time. You need to have a lot more controls than what is normally coming from a retention scenarios. So to address this, what is that anybody needs to have as a solution? So whenever we go and talk to the customer or an M365 customer, what needs to be well understood is the fact that this customer recoverability functions, which are absolutely enterprise grade. He needs to ensure that his governance and compliance things are controlled from a central location. So you have policies, you have things that you control centrally. And it should be something which is more a SaaS function, so that you don't need to bother about any infrastructure or dependency on your M365 or controls and those kind of things. So it should be a parallel tenant, it should be a SaaS offering, it should have all of these controls. And that's exactly what we get to the table as a solution to customers who are large M365 customer base. So we don't mention that this is for organizations which are huge in nature, but we're talking about even a user which starts off with just 250 users and 500 users actually require this particular solution far more than large organizations. So this is something what we would like to use today as such. So our solution is very specific, designed to address some of the most complex workloads which are connected to the M365, whether it is Exchange, whether it is OneDrive, whether it's SharePoint, whether it's Teams. All of this actually gets addressed from a functionality of recovery point of view. Very important factor is the innovation that we get because of the fact of if you have mammoth amount of data sitting on your Exchange and you're getting into capacity challenges, you're going into SharePoint, you moved all your file servers to SharePoint, everything is online, all your collaborations are happening on your SharePoint, and you start going far beyond the provided SharePoint capabilities. And that's when you actually will be requiring solutions to not only address your backup, but also ensure that you have an archive function built in, so that you can move all your unused data into another repository and ensure that you are at a safe limits with respect to the Exchange capacity which is available to you, and also the SharePoint capacity which is available to you from Microsoft. It's an extremely important function that I would like to highlight here. So not only the protection and recoverability, but also the fact that you can ensure that your archiving part is taken care, so that the total TCO impact is far less compared to anybody else. So what is also important is, once the solution is deployed, apart from all the compliance and everything else, you actually can use this as a one-stop search functionality for any kind of a activity which comes up at any given point of time later, whether it is an e-discovery, whether it's a legal specific demands which are going to come tomorrow. All of this can be controlled through policies, and how you can actually define how this recovery can happen, how the user can be assigned to a specific legal demand which is coming up, and the legal department needs to have 1, 2, 3, 4 user data available for them. All of this can be happening on a click of a button. You don't need to restore data. You don't need to create manual processes. All of this can be done by click of a button, and you would see all of this happening, on an orchestra level, moving into specific departments, owners getting reassigned, and those kind of things. So this is something what we get as a function to the Microsoft 365 environments. Customers love it when we implement it because it's a very purpose-built solution for Microsoft M365. And once you utilize this, you probably will, address some of the 5 or 10 major pain points that I just highlighted today, which doesn't come as a commitment from Microsoft on your workloads as such. So some of the key benefits, which are far beyond the management benefits, because the moment I say management benefits, a lot of things very specific comes from the element of compliance and governance, and what they are addressable to the board and those kind of things. All of this anyway gets addressed because it's a one-stop function to manage all of those. But also the most important element which comes in from the fact of recoverability, because IT teams and IT ownerships and IT heads are more concerned from a recoverability function. So you can have granular recovery, you can have an instant recovery, you can have recovery into the mailboxes, into a specific user, multiple users. You can have recoverability of specific data of OneDrive into another OneDrive user. All of this can be actually done very, very effectively, and very minimal operational overheads. When I say minimal operational overheads, it's extremely low as such. At any given point of time, the operational payload is far less than any other applications as such. A single person can manage even a 20,000, 25,000 user base as such. And it's a very predictable cost. When I say predictable, I'm talking about effectively somebody who wants to deploy the solution. You can be rest assured that when you are deploying it, this is the next amount of money that you would be spending on a yearly basis, and there's absolutely no hidden cost which comes. So this slide speaks for itself. Decades of happy customers. This is something what we would like to highlight, that we've been in the industry for almost a decade plus, and working with customers, small, big, large enterprise across the globe, more than 20,000 customer base, working very effectively to restore some of the largest files, the largest customer base, and people love us for the kind of support, the kind of engagements that we do with them. And this is bread and butter business for us. So we focus on this very effectively compared to any other industry market players. And that's the reason why all the innovations happen at a much faster rate here. And we look forward, this numbers to grow as we grow further, and look forward for all the support from the customer ecosystem as such.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Subhash, for the deep insights on Microsoft 365 data protection, especially how we can simplify the pain points and provide them one rooftop solution for our customers. Thank you. Thank you once again, Subhash, for such a brief walkthrough. Now, I think since we all know how data protection is important and how we can quickly simplify the complex workloads and so forth, I would like to invite Shashank Parker, our senior solution engineer, to walk you through the live product demo session for M365 Crash Plan. Shashank, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayur. Uh, Hello, everyone. So I'll showcase you the live product demo on how CrashPlan can help you to secure your M365 environment. Okay. All right. So CrashPlan integrates with your M365 tenant at API levels. We use Microsoft Graph APIs to integrate with M365 and to back up your data. So this integration also helps us to onboard your users. So the user onboarding or offboarding is completely controlled via Microsoft Entra ID. You don't need to manage any separate directory or any separate credentials for your users. As an administrator, you get a complete view of your environment on the dashboard itself, whether it is for Exchange, for OneDrive, or for SharePoint. For each product, you get in detail view on the dashboard itself. And if you're looking for each and every user's reports, like how much data we have backed up, what is a policy assigned to the users, or when was the last backup completed, all those details are available under reports. Now, how do we show the data, what data has been backed up, or in case you want to browse through the data that has been backed up? As an administrator, you have an option to go to Manage Assets, where you can view Exchange emails, OneDrive accounts, and even SharePoint sites. From this screen, you have certain options through which you can initiate a backup. You can restore a whole mailbox back to your M365, or you can do a granular level recovery, which I'll show you in few minutes, and all the other options. So these controls are available for administrators so that you don't need to depend on each user for them to share the credentials or anything like that. Using APIs, all these things are possible. Now, when we talk about the recovery, you can do a complete mailbox recovery or a complete OneDrive account recovery, or we have a very good feature where you can browse through the data that has been backed up, such as folders, subfolders, and then the exact emails which has been backed up. Now we allow customers to decide whether they want to allow administrators to preview these emails or not. We can also disable the previews for the emails, but administrator would still have access to recover or to restore these emails back to users' mailboxes. So from this console itself, you can choose what email you want to restore, what folder you want to restore, and you can restore it back to users' mailbox directly from the console, or using existing folders, or create a new folder as per your convenience. In case of user has resigned from the organization, there would be multiple processes. A process to keep your data for 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years as per your compliance, or to export it into PST and hand it over to someone, right? So in those cases, we help you a lot. We help our IT administrators in such a way that you don't need to keep any license active. So when user has resigned from the organization, you can simply disable their license, and you can disable their CrashPlan license as well. But we will still make sure that the data is always available for you. So after 3 years or 5 years, whenever you want, you can simply restore any email, any file, anything from the console. Or if you want to hand it over to someone else, like a legal team or a compliance team, you can simply use the additional ownership option, which will allow you to assign this backed up data to a different user from the same console. So this way, you are not handing over complete data to them. You don't need to download it. You don't need to restore it. And whatever activity this recipient user is going to perform, like browsing through the data or restoring or downloading any email, you will get a complete visibility of that under activity history. So as an administrator, you have complete visibility, you have complete control on all the data that has been shared with the recipient users. Similarly, when there is a legal requirement to search a particular email or a particular file from all the mailboxes that has been backed up, you don't need to go through all the folders or subfolders to search for that email. With the content search feature which we provide in our product, you can use multiple conditions such as sender's ID, recipient ID, CC, BCC, subject, keyword, anything. And this will help you to find a particular email which you are looking for. You can search at a global level, or you can also search at a user level to narrow down your search results. And from the search results, you can decide what you want to do next. So if you want, you can export everything into PST. If you want, you can download them as a EML file, which will open into your Outlook, or you can restore these emails back to your user's mailbox or to a legal team's mailbox directly from the console itself. So this makes your IT administrator's life very easy, where you don't need to depend on bandwidth to download the emails, bandwidth to download the PSTs or anything as such. The next important part is how do we make sure that what data is getting backed? So that's what we control and configure in the policies. Each product has different policy. So we'll go through exchange policies first. Policies are defined to configure the backup time. So when you want to trigger the backup, you can have multiple schedules in a day. And this is completely cloud-based operation. So you don't need to worry about working hours or when user is online and all that. So the backup will happen directly from M365 Cloud, where you can have multiple schedules. And as for the schedules, the incremental backups will work. So the first backup is always full backup, and post that it is forever incremental. So only the changed part or the newly received emails are taken in the incremental backup. In the policies, you can also define certain limitations if you want. So storage limit or retention limit for emails in case you want to clean up the deleted emails, or if you want to simply delete emails after 3 years or 5 years. All those settings can be configured in the policies, whereas by default, everything is unlimited for you. We can backup in place archive folder, contacts, tasks, calendar, everything that is available in mailboxes. This product, CrashPlan also gives you a very interesting feature called as capacity savings, which we'll discuss in detail shortly. But this will help you to reduce your total utilization, whether it is for Exchange, whether it is for OneDrive or SharePoint. Continuing to the policies, you can define what folders you want to backup or want to exclude, and even the emails which are not important to you. As similar to these Exchange policies, we can also configure OneDrive and SharePoint policies, which are slightly different than Exchange because OneDrive and SharePoint is mostly files and folder-based structure. So here you get additional settings, such as how many versions you want to maintain. Whenever a file is modified, we can keep it as a separate version, and you can go back to those particular version to restore. Similarly, how much single file size you want to allow, or what file extension you want to allow for the backup. You can narrow down the criteria for the backup and focus on the files which are really important to you and exclude everything which is not important. Now, the capacity savings feature which we have, that is available for Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, all three products. What it will do is, in case of Exchange, the majority of the capacity is being utilized by the attachments received in the mails. So such attachments could be in MBs of size or could be in KBs, but our product can essentially remove these attachments from the actual mail and put it in your storage without tampering anything with the user experience. For example, to showcase you how it actually looks like, I'll switch to my mailbox screen. Here you can see all the attachments, which are .pdf, all these documents have been converted into a hyperlink. These are not the actual attachments, but it has been dehydrated, which means the actual data is sitting in our storage. And a link to access that file is still available to me as an user. So as an end user, I can still click on that link, which will redirect me to another screen from where I can decide whether I want to view a file, whether I want to download that file, or whether I want to restore that file. So the actual size of the file is 666 KB, but the link which we store here is almost 200 bytes, which is very much small compared to the actual size. But you can decide whether you want to archive files, which are archive mails, which are older than 1 year or 2 years. You can define that in the policies. But this will essentially reduce your capacity for the Exchange mailboxes, which also removes your additional activity of converting them into PSTs or purchasing any additional license for in-place archive from Microsoft. So instead of doing all those activities, you can simply enable this capacity savings feature, which is add-on the basic Microsoft backup licenses, and you will have all of your attachments replaced with the redirect link. Similarly, in case of OneDrive and SharePoint, as I said, it's based on files. So we have some additional conditions such as if your OneDrive has reached to 80% of capacity, all the files which are older than 365 days, and the files which are bigger than 100 MB. We can target specific files using these three conditions in case of OneDrive and SharePoint. Once we have configured these conditions, the archiving job will automatically define search for these files which belong to these conditions, and it will redirect them. It will move them to actual storage, and instead of those files, you will see these .url files through which you can easily identify what is a file name. You can identify what is a extension, and same as what we have shown you in the Exchange, it will redirect you to another page where you can view, you can download, or you can restore this file back to the original location. So this capacity saving feature will help you to save a lot of cost in case of capacity which is allocated to the users. And instead of buying additional licenses or additional storage, you can simply archive the data which is not being used by the users. So this is how the entire M365 backup and archiving works. Now, from the reports perspective, administrator gets a complete information of their users. So under backup overview report, you get to know how much data has been backed up for each user. When was the last backup completed, whether the backup is currently in progress, and how much is the progress. So all these details are available in the reports, which can be viewed, can be downloaded as an Excel, or can be scheduled to be delivered to your administrators every day. We can also have multiple levels of administrators. So role-based access is always available, through which you can control what access should be given to which administrators. In case you have different branches, if you have different backup policies created, you can have different delegated administrator created. So a low-level engineer who should not have access to the data, but they should be allowed to manage your users, to view the reports, or just to preview the policies, and no option to change the policies. You can use delegated administrator and read-only administrator role. So this will help you to divide the job to manage this tool within your engineers as well, without any security concerns or without exposing any data or any backed data to these engineers. As an administrator, as I showed you earlier, you can also get details of the data, that the capacity that has been saved for the users. So capacity savings report gives you information for each user, how much storage we have saved. So this will also help you in case of auditing or during the compliance, or while renewing your M365 licenses, you can decide and take the next actions to reduce certain capacity, which will save a lot of storage cost for you. Yeah. So I think with that, we have finished the product demo for M365 backup. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shashank, for your deep dive session. I hope it was an insightful one. Let me have a Q&A session now. Any questions, audience, please, you can put it in the Q&A session box. So Mr. Vikram Sham has showed a question, and I have asked a question. Here I can see multiple questions coming through the screen.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, so I have two questions. Number one, how this tool is advanced than the existing tool like Veeam and Commvault? and other tools which are available in market, is there anything that is not included in those tools, and this tool has that advantage? And second, can we back up our other cloud based data, like the data which is stored in AWS or any other cloud application? Can we move that data as well in CrashPlan?
Vikram, thanks for the question. You mentioned some of the the bigger players in the market. Veeam and Dhruva, AvePoint, all are fairly well established organizations. But when you come to M365, there is certain specific advantage that we have over the rest of the people is the kind of engagements that we have with Microsoft, amount of deep engagements that we work with Microsoft. If you look at it, Dhruva is more an AWS player, and more importantly, the kind of functions that we give over and above the backup environments. We are talking about hybrid archives working in tangent with the solutions that we have deployed. Nobody else can do this for you. We also ensure that your Exchange mailboxes are archived in a fashion which can give you the simplicity of not getting into creating PSTs. All of this is something which comes from the CrashPlan banner. Nobody else does this for you in the market. And over and above that, the simplicity of how the dashboard is built, how the entire workflows are built is all bottoms up. So we work very, very closely with customers. And that's the reason why you see everything around the product has been built, keeping in the customer in mind and not just the engineering mavericks that are it.
And my second question, like, can we back up the data which is stored on other cloud platforms?
So right now we can just back up M365 workloads and also the Google Suite workloads, nothing else. And these are the two areas where we work very closely with. But definitely, yes, as you rightly mentioned, if at all you want this to be backed up into an AWS environment, that is possible because we consider it as an S3 bucket.
Okay, and one more question, like, do you have any level of or any kind of partnership with them 365?
So the engagement that we have is we work with the US Microsoft team directly. We are classic gold partners for them. We work at the engineering and at M365 product levels, and everything that we build around is based on the Graph APIs what Microsoft engages with us. And we also integrate with their M365 backup, volume that they built for the organizations as a front end. We also integrate with that for customers who are very large telcos and those kind of companies.
Okay, great. Thanks for the
Thanks,
answers,
Vikram.
Vash. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vikram. I hope we have clearly, answered to your question. Now, moving on to next question. Subhash, there's one more question I would like to read it out for them. So, technology and the demo, everything is super and at par, but there is always a concern about the pricing when it comes to the, backup or any kind of revamp or new solution that customer is evaluating, right? So, from pricing perspective, is CrashPlan typically, prices customer per user and or any other model or capacity base. I have
We don't
also
we don't have any hidden cost associated with the product. It's a per user per year basis. You get
okay.
an advantage of signing off with us for 3 years also. Mainly, you will not be impacted by the yearly escalations. You can pay us annually, but you can sign off a 3-year contract with us. So it's a clear approach that we have. We don't have anything which bifurcates the costing aspect into sub levels. So that is something what we get to the customer as a value, and whatever he pays, whatever the customer pays us, includes the egress, ingress, everything as a charge. So they don't need to pay anything extra for the infrastructure, neither the repository as such, and also during restores, they don't need to pay us anything extra. Everything is part of the overall per user basis as such.
That's great. That's great.
We
So I
also
was
have another question from Nitin. What are the features available in this and not in the other
Yeah.
software. I highlighted one important aspect, which is a hybrid archive, which is something that you get as additional functionality. Definitely, you can make use of it when compared to any other product. Apart from this, the other advantage that we get onto the table is the fact that we work with multiple repository vendors, which means to say that you have an option of backing it up to, S3 compatible repository at a backend, and that is something what gives you the flexibility of working with CrashPlan. You can have CrashPlan on Azure Blob. You can have CrashPlan on our own data centers, which are in US, and you can also have a option of working with your own S3 compatible storage hosted.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Subhash, for your answers, for all the questions. I guess there's one more question. Okay, yeah, this we have answered. Thank you. So, people, please feel free to reach out to us, to District team and to CrashPlan team. Rest of the questions I think we can take. We can schedule a virtual calling, and then probably we can take that up from there. Now, so there are two activities. One is this poll, which is rightly visible to all of you on your screen. So please feel free to participate in it. And there is a lucky tip for this, for the winner who answers the questions rightly. So please spend some time, go through the questions, and we'll again connect back. And followed by this, there will be one more QR code which we will be sharing. For that, again, we can connect individually and have a demo session with us. So here is the QR code for everybody to scan. Please feel free to scan this QR code right on the screen, and you can fill out the form. Basic 4 5 questions about your architecture, about whatever we have discussed as of now. The questions will be in and around, so that helps us to understand in a very crisp and simplified format, that we can understand your questions. And please schedule a demo and be a winner for our lucky dip. We'll be sending out the same to your office very shortly. Meanwhile, I'll take few minutes to, thank you, Subhash Baliga and Shashank Parker and Durga Prasad, the entire District team and CrashPlan team behind this, for having this wonderful interactive, virtual webinar session. And thank you for all the participants who are, showing their enthusiasm and being an active sport. Thank you once again for spending your time with us. See you back once again. I think
Thank
let's.
you, everybody. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
everyone for joining.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Mayu sir and Subhash sir for conducting this wonderful webinar. Thank you, Shashank as well. Thank you all the attendees on behalf
Thank
of
you,
Digital
Harsha.
Track Solutions.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Durga Prasad. Thank you, everyone, and